Remember when I say don't forget about the little things. And witchcraft is very subtle. It doesn't have to be some extravagant thing, otherwise, we'd see it. They say the devil's biggest trick is to appear as if he doesn't exist. Likewise, is the technology, because that's the way that ignorance gets in. Ignorance is an evil thing. So it's what we don't know that's like the sleight of hand. Kind of like what we don't see is what we don't know. And it's the little things that'll get you. So I'm not going into any big extravagant examples. What I'm doing is showing you the subtleness and using very small examples of how it adds up to a lifetime programming and conditioning. And culturally, that should explain why we are where we are, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Thank goodness that's changing as we're learning and ascending.
Good day, this is Regina's Rabbit Hole, Siren Buddha Medicine. Much love to you and yours. I want to talk about witchcraft. To be glamored. To be glamored. How can we be glamored? Okay, so first you have the trauma base. That's one way to disturb someone's mind and to weaken their resolve is through trauma. And that's one of the ways our society keeps us off balance is through trauma. I equate society as a parent, the government as a parent, society as a mate, and I equate them to like an abusive mate or an abusive parent. So we have domestic violence issues, we have acts of violence and control going on in our government, in our society. One of the things I found as a woman is that it's easier to not challenge anything. Don't be outspoken. There's just a list of don'ts, and the men typically were the ones who spoke out and decided what's what within our society. Or do they? Here, that part has been taken away from women to a certain extent in the physical realms. But in the spiritual realms, it's the Most High that has to say so and what goes into our society, because it comes forth through our womb space, through the woman's womb space. You need doctors and lawyers and preachers and mentors and stuff like that. Be the hope you want to see. It's going to come through your womb on many occasions. And so we have these broken spaces. Things that we go through within our cultures that are violent. Okay. When you take a people as a whole and you keep their head down so that they can't rise up, and When I was a little girl, I would make these little card houses, where you stack the cards or line the dominoes up. And my little brother would come along after seeing me concentrate so diligently on putting everything just where I wanted it and just boom, right? Knock it all down. Or other children that you're playing around, if they see you stacking the cards up or the dominoes and they're not the ones to take the time and the energy to do that, they might tend to just destroy your whole thing. And so that's one of the examples of how we still treat each other to this day when we see other people try to rise up and overcome some of the things that they have been through. So men have been the ones to typically speak out. And that's an illusion, and the grammar and the glamour of the Matrix is assuming that that's the Most High's will, that that's God's will for, if you call the Most High God. That would just be assuming that that would be the will of the Most High. Because that's what we've been told. The grammar and the glamour is a way of twisting words and concepts, which in turn helps twist, and it shows the nature of the intent. And those intentions can go into whole systems of things. The way societies are run and religious systems and things like medical, and we've seen this be done. It's the way that I look at myself and the way that I look at the world around me that determines what our society is going to end up being, because each one teaches one. So for example, I seen this little girl be given a book, and it said Psalms for Lost Girls. And I had to tell her, you can get that book back because you're not lost. First of all, you're a child, and if anybody's lost, it's the adults that are around you that don't know who the blip they are. A child can't be lost. You can be lost as an adult. When you have the opportunity to find your way and you choose not to, you could be lost as an adult. The ego, you're talking about, we're used to seeing the kind of ego where people are like, I'm the best and nobody could be as good as me, or I want to be the best and I don't want anyone around me that's going to mess with that interpretation that I have of myself. And so their ego will do anything to make sure that no one else is as good as them, that no one else shows up to mess with that perception that they have of themselves. But there's also the inverted ego, and the inverted ego is where we feel like we're not good enough, that we're always lacking, and that we're somehow irrelevant to the whole grand scheme of things. So whereas the person with the extravagant ego would feel like the party only starts when they show up, we feel like it doesn't matter whether we're there or not. Or perhaps maybe nobody would really want us there because we're not as good as all those other people. Where does this narrative come from? The grammar and the glamour is where the narrative comes from. There's a little girl who was given a book, like I said, and it said Psalms for Lost Girls. But she's not lost. And the person wrote a little something inside the book, and it was more like, they're there now. It's okay that you're lost. You know? That's basically the tone that it had for me, was planting, insinuating this concept into the child's mind that she was lost. You know, by giving her this particular book and writing inside of it, it was like a prescription. You know, that's the grammar and the glamour. So when you're a child, where does the mind control come from? When they tell you as a culture, they're there now, it's okay, stay right there, we understand, you've been damaged, you've been hurt, we're not expecting you to rise anywhere, we're not expecting you to become anything, dearie, you're broken, it's okay now, we give you permission to be broken, we understand your brokenness. We understand the fact that you're not equal to us because, gee, we broke you. And so that's the underlying message that you get in the American culture that I've gotten as a melanated individual. And as a woman, why I equate the state of women, or the state of who we melanated people in America to domestic violence, is because it fits the dynamics, you know, of a bad parenting or a bad husband. All the different things that they do to keep all the same things that an abusive woman or a man would do to keep the person that they're abusing into that state of mind and that positioning, is the very same things that our government does to us to keep us into the position of victim, of not exerting ourselves. And so I noticed these dynamics quite a while ago. And so you get the they're there now. We're not expecting you to be great. You know? When there's more of us that are great than not, but we don't realize it because, and I believe that's part of the conditioning when we try to rise up, that we're helping to push each other's heads back down underwater in the sand into the hole, like they say the ostrich does. And it's words that lead to the personal conditioning. And that's why I said the grammar and the glamour, and this is about witchcraft. It's because it's the subtleties. When you're in the school system and they show one culture being fantastical and great, and you're next to it being the slave and the person that's hauling water and baling cotton and cooking in the kitchen while they're sitting there lounging and directing, it says something mentally and emotionally about where you would see your limitations being and how you identify yourself. And a lot of it has to do with imaging. That's why they control the images so much. And it's only recently that we're able to see more positive images of melanated folks on the screen. So we're not realizing the magnitude of the amount of conditioning that we've received as a people. We're told to be, we're conditioned to feel we're insignificant and to not rise. Financially, many times we're not the ones with the money to send our children to more extravagant education. We're not the ones to exert ourselves and to alternative education, meaning when you come home from school, you're studying something else on your spare time, something more advanced or that would enhance whatever studies that you have in school, something totally different, something that would enhance you or advance you in life. We're not really geared and taught to do that. However, other cultures are. This is a part of the mind control and the conditioning. They don't teach girls how to do certain things so that they don't become a problem. There's cultures that will not teach women how to read or to reason, to use her intellect, because they don't want her to become a problem to her husband, to challenge him, or to do anything challenging within society. And in the same way that they do that to women in order to steer the energy of women into a certain dynamic where the men are always the ones who are ruling, capitalizing, and in control of the conditioning. In the same way they do that to women, they do that to melanated people within the culture. And that's why I say that melanated men have been forced into the position of female submission. And not just melanated men, but any man without economic power has been forced into the position of female submission. And the dynamics would be intellect. The dynamics would be to condition you, to mind control you, to feel like you don't have any assets, that there's nothing special about you, that you're only allotted a particular area to float in life. You're only allowed this much wiggle room. You know what I'm saying? Stay here. You are not allowed to go through that door, nigga. Stay here. You ignorant person. Nigga meaning ignorant. But we're actually Nagas, which is an ancient race who helped build this civilization. Some of our technologies and stuff come from the Naga, an ancient priesthood. So they took our sciences and our the things that we use to build a society and to make a culture, and they segmented it. You know, they compartmentalized it and then erased the fact that pretty much that we ever did it to begin with. So when you're sitting in the classroom and you see the forget who said it, but within the same classroom, one set of children are being taught to be servants, subservient to the other portion of people in the classroom. And so when you get the integration, it's not really integration but programming, when the programmers are only the ones that are let through because they have a particular kind of conditioning, which is to believe the lie, which is to further, not to advance society, but to further inflict discord onto society by continuing to follow the rules and the path that was already set before them. And they won't even be chosen for the position that they're in as far as leadership is concerned unless they've somehow made these pacts and agreements, even by way of their personality, to uphold certain things. And so one of the reasons why that's so easy to do is economics. And that's why I say that melanated men have been forced into the position of female submission. Due to lack of economic empowerment. And that's being used as one of the ways to control people. In the same way that finances and security have been used to control women. In the Matrix. So the glamour and the grammar is more so the conditioning and the programming, because it all starts with a thought. It all starts with what we were taught. So if we're taught that you're fantastic and that you're special and that you can do it, you have those, you bring in that kind of energy with you. But if you're taught they're there now, it's okay to be broken, then you stay in that space, and that's your wiggle room. Not realizing that those messages that we're getting are super important. The messages that you get are a form of conditioning, and that conditioning can be used as a form of mind control. So I mean, it's all a form of mind control, if depending on the way you look at it. Like, you could get with this or you could get with that. You know, you could get with the mind control and the conditioning that betters society or steers society in one direction, or you could get with the stagnation, purposely putting up these walls and helping to further the conditioning, where we keep going in the direction where we disempower people. Giving that young girl a book saying that said Psalms for lost girls is a form of conditioning and mind control. And so I see that being done in our culture, where people actually want to be afflicted and they want to be ignorant. I ain't gonna read that book. Oh, I got this problem. I got that problem. I don't come from that. None of my people did this, and you know. In the same way that you could tell somebody, they're there now. I still care about you, even though you have a club foot. You could ante up and even up the score with them. You could raise their frequency and vibration by saying, I love the way that you can reach out and do so many things with your arms. You're so creative, you know. Uh, you know what I'm saying? Your intellect or your beauty, or you can give them a compliment. You can choose to pick something else and shine a light on that, you know, as opposed to they're there now. I still care about you even though you have a clubbed foot. Nobody's expecting you to go running up and down the street. It's okay. You're broken. It's okay. But yet you can look at women with no legs. Oh, well, you can look at women with no arms. Oh, I actually saw a woman with no arms and no legs using her mouth to change her baby's diaper. Okay? And do you remember the Karate Kid where Mr. Miyagi taught him how to do the stand on one foot? And well, the guy with one leg is really not feeling that. Like, he does that all day long. But in our minds, when we saw this child in the Karate Kid, we thought, hey, that's pretty cool. And that's what I'm talking about. That's the grammar and glamour in the form of mind control. And so, when you tell a child, this is Psalms for lost girls. First of all, tell me how a child is lost. You know? What's the point having a creator and a most high if a child can get lost? I said, honey, the most high knows who you are. It has known who you are from the very beginning. You can't be lost from the most high. If anybody moves away from the most high, from what we call God, from what a lot of people call God, it's them. You're not lost. It's the people around you who are lost. Because the Most High knows where you are at all times. If you're a part of the Most High, if I reach over and I touch my shoulder or my behind, that's a part of me. And so if we're just an extension of the Most High, it's like that to the Most High. You didn't lose your nose. It's right there on your face. The Most High knows where you are. So you're not lost. Now, adults may not be able to comprehend that, and they may be lost, spiritually lost, morally lost, and intellectually challenged to be able to comprehend that. But that's not the child's disposition. The child is in a space of learning. That's why I like the part where it says, be like a child. You know? And women have been in that space where most women are in a space where it's like a childlike state. You know? I'm talking about worldwide too. Where, you know, you have to obey the husband. You're looking at unsanctioned sexual activity, you know, marriage, the marriage mirage, and where all that came from. I'm not particularly going to go into right now. But it's another form of control, especially if you're unevenly yoked and you just have to obey. Are you a citizen? So you're married to a particular region or place. And so you're also subjected to what they believe and how they run things. And so if they say that you're smaller and less significant than me and they grow you into that state of mind within that culture feeling like that, then it's not very unlike a woman in society feeling like she should stay in her place, depending on whatever culture is looking at her. She shouldn't teach, or she shouldn't speak, or she should cover up, or she should uncover, depending on what situation you put her in. And that's the grammar and the glamour. It's all about words. It's all about conditioning. It's all about intention. So, I've been doing a lot of work on myself, and it hasn't been easy because it's been the core work. It's been the kind of stuff that people normally hide, you know. They'll do the exercise to stand in a powerful position for a while so that they appear like they've got it under control and everything is pristine. That they have no worries, that they have no insecurities, that they have no flaws. But it's the lie that we tell ourselves in order to entice other people. Because the real truth is that we all have something that we need to work on, and that is broken. But see, they're not focusing on that, right? They're not focusing on the brokenness. They're focusing on their highlights. And that's why I'm talking about the inverted ego. Like, there's a balance to this. There's focusing on those things that need to be, that we consider broken, that need to be fixed. Like growing up, making sure that you're in this position where you keep yourself this small in order not to offend anyone, so you can keep yourself safe, so you don't challenge anyone. And then when you go to exert yourself, you feel very uncomfortable and that you stepped out of line because you're used to living up to the stereotype that someone else gave you. But that's their interpretation of you, not your own, and not the person that the Most High that you can get intimate with and the Most High will bring out. Because we're not all carbon copies, but an individual composition of a light code frequency that comes from source energy, right? So it wasn't meant for us to all be this carbon copy, this ditto of the person next to us. So no culture deserves the right to rule over an entire other culture just because of the color of their skin. And then within the school system, orchestrate things to align with that in a sneaky, subtle way by giving the other people the they're there now. It's okay. You were slaves. We don't expect you to do anything fantastic. You never did anything fantastic. A matter of fact, you guys just started reading, and the narrative that is being taught, and that's how one group of people within that structure, by looking at the reading materials, grows up feeling insignificant and small, and that they deserve to be ruled by these other people that they've been watching that have all their stuff together. It says right here in the book, in writing, the grammar and the glamour, the words, the English, right? It says, you guys were the greatest. And when you learn about like dream boarding or mantras, changing the narrative, you see how it's all so very simple, to see how the grammar and glamour has gotten in there and been used in a counterproductive way. To purposely tone certain people or groups of people down, to tone them down spiritually. It's like a disease, like a very subtle disease, of mind control. So you stay in the position of victimhood, of, oh no, not me, massa. I can't do that. I'm just a little old nobody trying to be somebody. I was thinking of that song. I'm just a nobody trying to tell everybody about somebody who can change anybody. And that's different from walking around feeling like I'm somebody, my dad was somebody, my great 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 granddaddy was somebody. And a matter of fact, we still somebody. We got these factories, we got this closed gated community. I just went on vacation 5 times last year. My children go to private school. Well, I ain't got them problems like you. They're there now. You got that club foot? We ain't expecting you to go nowhere anyhow. It's okay. They're there now. Lost. Psalms for lost girls. Words for lost people. So if you think about magnetism and mentalism and dream boarding, as I said, and mantras, mudras, and the power of words, frequencies, and vibrations, then you'll see how doing certain things subtly all day long, every day, and being saturated in this bubble of a lie, you don't actually, it's very easy to keep entire cultures of people within a certain social dynamic, whether it's all women or all men without financial footing, without enough financial footing to squabble with those people who are they call the movers and the shakers, because they can afford to lobby, they can afford to pay, they can afford to do the politics and all that kind of stuff. It usually has to do with money. Economics. Economics. And one who's all into biology and all these other things. I didn't even realize that I didn't have any internet. You may think that you know that you've got it, right? Because you have all this information. But what I realized is that the therapist who was running the group said, yeah, we're all paying attention to the right and left side of the brain, the creative and the logical side, and blah blah blah. That's like the big narrative right now in psychology. But what we really need to be doing is paying attention to lining up our primitive brain with our um, logical brain. And that made so much sense to me. Just saying that one little simple thing, right? How it's not so much about, um, it's not deliberate sometimes, it's very chemical, you know, it's very, it's a physical thing that your um, back brain, which has a need for uh, love, uh, consumption, repetition, um, as well as food and water and shelter, you know, um, how those things can get mixed up and contradict the reasoning, you know, like, why am I still doing this? It's because the behavior that we have gotten is like a drug, okay? It sent, being in certain spaces sends certain endorphins and changes the chemicals in your brain. Like when you do drugs and the adrenaline or the serotonin, or, you know, the things change, the chemistry in your brain changes. Trauma does that too, right? You get this sense of adrenaline and stuff. And sometimes we can be stuck in a certain situation just because our bodies are used to feeling a certain homeostasis within us. So if we've been brought up to feel certain ways, it's also chemical. You get a different sense of chemistry going on in the body when you accomplish things, right? There's a different chemistry going on in the body if you actually do drugs. There's a different chemistry going on in the body when you eat food, depending on what foods you eat. There's a different chemistry going on in the body when we make love. When we're around people that we care for, and when we're around things that we don't like, that are adversive. All these change what's going on neurologically, and that affects the way that we feel. And if we've been brought up to feel in a particular way, then it's not, give yourself a break that, oh yeah, I know it, and why didn't I change this yet? You didn't change it yet because you got to get to be aware that these things are a chemical composition. And so we might be used to victim mode, like some people are used to beast mode. To gradually wean ourselves away from there now, the victim mentality, to the space where you're empowered, where that feels okay, where other people being put off by you not being in agreement is okay, and allowing that chemical change, right? That change, that healthy change to happen within your spirit body, right? Within your mind, is a whole nother ball game than just standing in a power position, you know, so that you can hypnotize or trick your body and your brain into believing something for a moment, so you can fake it till you make it, so you can trick there's tricks, right? But how long does it last? I want the real thing, just like I went a whole 9 for the real thing with other things that were counterproductive. I want the real thing when it comes to my spiritual growth and productivity, and my alignment with you as a teacher, as a student. What I bring to the table, it's important for me to be as what I call real is possible, as if this world of illusion is real, but it's real enough. So anyway, that's the witchcraft that I'm talking about. Is, although very subtle, we're saturated in other people's interpretations of us, and we've been swallowing that for quite a long time. Okay? It's the norm for us to absorb all the interpretations that this culture gave to us from the time we went to preschool, whether as women or men. And so if that they're there now doesn't give you any financial stability, then you can't really move. You're still subjected to society, which is more like the parent, right, or the husband, who doesn't want you to really exert yourself or rise above them in order that they can keep the control and still extract what they need from you. So that's why, remember, I equate that the men have also been pushed into a position of female submission. And, the Most High has a sense of humor. And that's also a part of karma. The energy, the energies that we pull in are reflective. If we just pay attention, we're able to see some kind of connection. And when we do, we're able to get a clue and then position ourselves so that we can make the change. Because just because you know something is happening, as I said, doesn't mean you can change it. There's other work to be done. Like, okay, now that I know this is a neurological thing as well, it's not just about behavior, although they can be closely in line to one another. Behavior does change your neurology, the way that you see things. To reprogram oneself to spin in the opposite direction of being counterproductive is going to take some real truth and effort. And there's no amount of ninja poses that are going to change that core stuff that was programmed into us until we admit that it's actually there and go to actually do the deeper work in order to change. And so I find that we police ourselves. That's one of the reasons why we police ourselves as melanated people. Is the conditioning that some other culture is supposed to be doing that and not us. That we'll see other people going to accomplish things and try to be discouraging or shoot them down because somehow it reflects on us, makes us feel like insignificant, right? Who do they think we are? Who do they think they are? So we want to make a liar out of the next melanated person who actually broke the rules and actually did something with themselves. Not necessarily that they became a basketball player or a rapper or a model or a singer or something like that. But they did something different to accomplish something in their life, to grow self-esteem, to change the way that we view people and ourselves. For example, somebody loses weight and the people around them, oh, you're getting too skinny. Are you okay? Are you sick? The reason why they may do that is because that person who lost weight is somehow unconsciously making them feel they're not aware. They feel challenged and they feel insignificant. That person has accomplished something that they want to accomplish, but instead of acknowledging that and wow, that's great, if you can do it, I can do it, they want to do the they're there now, it's okay that you have a club foot, instead of wow, you got two really great arms, you're strong, I like the way you write, I like the way you catch that ball, I like the way you crochet something. You know what I'm saying? That you could pick anything. See, and how I started seeing this also on this poll. So we'll discourage each other as a norm in order to feel better about not accomplishing anything. Other women will put other women down and discourage them in order to feel okay about where they are and decisions that they've made being a woman. So don't color outside the lines because it makes me feel uncomfortable. So that thing that we want to be, when our husband or parent pats you on the head and says, there now, I love you anyway, that you have whatever flaw or whatever, you're missing a tooth, your butt got a little too big, you know what I'm saying, you don't spell too good, your parents or your spouse will be like, they're there now, it's okay, I love you anyway. And then you would hope that if they were loving, truly loved you, they would help you rise to the occasion, right? I mean, by letting you know about some other things that were fantastic about you that you could actually, advance on, that you could expound on, you know what I'm saying? So that you weren't concentrating on your club foot or what you did that made, or what you have that made you feel insignificant. Psalms for lost girls. You're not lost. There's nothing lost about you. Most High knows where you are, knows who you are. It's in the blood. Our ancestors know exactly where we are and who we are, even if we don't. So I went to another depth in my research. Research. Who's in there? What are you doing? And I'm grateful for that. But I gotta tell you, I know why a lot of people choose not to do the work. Because it's one of the hardest things. But one of the most beautiful things that we'll ever do in our life is the real work, which is to fix ourselves. To fix the frequency where the tones and the vibrations are true. As true as they can possibly be. So that we can resonate properly with the Most High and with ourselves, so we can truly bring the medicine. So that's what I wanted to say about witchcraft. We have people who appear like they're giving us sympathy and trying to do justice by us. But it's not. It's actually a way to keep us conforming and in an agreement with being broken, with not being challenging. Okay, so I really got to answer this call. Much love to you and yours. This is Siren Buddha Medicine, Regina's Rabbit Hole. I'm out.